Okay, we're back live this morning and we're going to continue our discussion. It is 10:30 and we're going to discuss district maintenance and fleet division budget. Wayne Gamble and Harmony Wilder. So, okay, take it away. Who would like to go? Harmony?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the remaining committee members. I'm Harmony Wilder and I'm the AOT Fleet Manager. Some of you may recognize me from BGS Fleet, where I managed the state centralized fleet for about 10 years. So, coming to Central Garage, it's an entirely different fleet. It's a heavy duty fleet. I'm accustomed to a light duty fleet. Well, what remains consistent between the two is the need to use data to inform your decisions about your fleet. The maintenance and repair costs, the utilization, right sizing your fleet, all pretty consistent between the two. And fortunately, I have a lot of great staff at Central Garage that already know how to maintain vehicles and repair them. So that's good for me.
When you talk about fleet, that's the plow trucks, that's the pickup trucks, everything.
That is correct. Yep, it's about 660 pieces of equipment. About
that's the registered. Those are registered or could be.
These are all registered for the road. That's correct.
Wow. How many plow trucks do we have?
About 240, and that's a mix. Those are the orange plow trucks. That's a mix of the single and tandem axle trucks. But in addition to that, we also have 135 of the medium duty plow trucks that have the bed sanders in them for the non-CDL drivers.
Oh, okay. So we do have some without CDL, so we can accommodate some of the plow.
Fortunately we do, because we are, as you know, running into a staffing issue. So those do come in handy in those circumstances.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure, absolutely. So as you know, with me is Director Wayne Gamble from District Maintenance and Fleet, and Todd Law, Wayne Gamble Director and Todd Law Deputy Director. And Todd's going to help me with my presentation and moving those slides forward.
Thank you.
So today I'm going to present the FY 2023 Fleet Central Garage budget. So next slide time. So for FY 2023, we're proposing a budget of $22.7 million, which is $550,000 increase over FY 2022. The majority of that increase is the result of salary and benefit increases. It's about $250,000. Some of that is, a large portion of that is attributable to a recent reclassification of our mechanic positions. So we have 5 levels of mechanics. Previously, our lowest level of mechanic starting pay was $15.49, and now it's increased to $18.99. So that increased our budget, but it also has provided us an opportunity to fill some positions that were vacant for quite some time.
$18.99. In the grocery business, you said 19, it would sound better. You know what I mean?
They would probably agree with you.
Yes, I would think you said 19 for a penny. It sounds a lot better than $18.99.
It's some formula that is unknown to me, but $18.99 is what they start out at. And now our top position is a level 5 that previously started at $21.16, and that's now at $32.95. So that's your master level mechanic that's coming with a lot of experience, likely some ASE certifications, but then the folks that start at 1 can also move up throughout their career. So a large portion of our increase is the salaries and benefits. The other portion of the increase is largely increased maintenance and repair costs. So as you know, supply demand, it's been tough to get parts. We're also paying more for parts, tires in particular, anything from the lubricants to every single part you can imagine. We're anticipating more of a price increase, which is why we budgeted a little bit more. So our equipment budget, that's important because that allows us to purchase new equipment to replace our aging fleet. So this year, our equipment budget will be $8.5 million roughly. In FY22, it was about $8.1 million, an increase of $377,000. That is calculated, the transfer that we receive from transportation funds is a calculation that includes the CPI, so whatever the consumer price index is, it increases based on that. And then we're allowed to add in our depreciation from the prior year. So in this case, it's FY21's depreciation of our equipment. And then our surplus sales, so the proceeds that we received from the auction from FY 2021 were $668,979. So that also is included in the formula to calculate our replacement budget.
Are you able to get new vehicles, or like everybody else can't buy them? Are you backlogged? And I know the
So
prices.
for the orange plow trucks, the single and tandem axles, we place those orders 2 years in advance.
Oh,
So we're still getting those. We did just go out to bid for a new contract, and we haven't gotten the bids back, but we anticipate several different vendors. We're not sure quite yet, but the great thing is that our expectation this time around is that purchasing and contracting will award to multiple vendors, which will also help with that ability for us to get vehicles. Because if one vendor can't, then we can go to the next. So
good. That's a good idea. Yep.
yeah. So the next slide is our fleet value. So if you look at our current fleet, the original cost of those vehicles on our fleet that we have today was about $79 million. So that includes the price of the vehicle, as well as all those capital improvements are the upfits. So it's adding the dump body, it's adding the plow and the wing. And so when you look at the total vehicle, the total capitalized cost for those was $79 million. We're on an 8-year depreciation schedule, meaning that we also anticipate turning our fleet over in 8 years, most of them. So if you look at the $79 million of our current fleet, you would say, okay, if you have $8.5 million every year and you divide that into your original purchase cost, assuming no price increases, you would be able to replace about 1/9 of your fleet every year. So that puts you on a 9-year replacement schedule, not an 8-year that you anticipated. Now you factor in price increases, and we're probably looking closer to a 10-year replacement cycle. And that matters because, as I told you before, our equipment fund includes our depreciation from the year prior. So if our vehicles are fully depreciated and we're still hanging on to them, we don't get those funds in our equipment budget the next year because they're fully depreciated. There's no depreciation to be added to our equipment fund. So that's something that we're a little bit challenged with right now, is our fleet is aging a little bit. The equipment fund this year restored an $800,000 rescission from the year before, from 2022. So that decreased the number of vehicles we were able to purchase last year. So instead of purchasing the normal 30 that we strive to, we replaced 17. So this is kind of important, only because it shows you like how much money we need to budget every year to be replacing our fleet timely. Next slide. Todd, I'm ready for you to go to the next slide. Unless someone has questions.
No question? No.
Okay, so so the next slide is going to show you the age of our fleet today. Todd, can you slide to the next one that has the graph on it? Perfect. So this is the age of our fleet over a period of time. So today you can see that 9% of our fleet is older than 8 years. So that's about, and when I say we're just looking at plows and dump trucks, the big orange trucks, those 240 that I was telling you about. So 9% is about 22 of those trucks are older than 8 years. And then 14% are between 7 and 8 years. So if you look at the combined 23%, it's about 55 trucks that we really should be replacing this year. If we had the funding to do so, we would. We're probably, and you'll see later on, going to replace 27 of those. That's what we have. We think we have the funding to replace. you know,
What
when you don't replace them, your cost increase for your maintenance and repair as well.
What determines that the trade-in, or is it mileage or age, or both?
It's primarily age. It's age.
Okay. Yeah.
So this just gives you an idea of how most fleets determine what the optimal point is to replace their vehicle. So this is an example. It's not our data. It just gives you kind of an idea of what other fleets are using as well as us. So if you look at the graph, you'll see here that the depreciation goes down over time, and then the cost to maintain and repair goes up. And here they're saying the optimal point of replacement for them using their data would be 5 years. Todd, if you scoot to the next slide.
No, could I ask a question,
Oh,
Mr. Chair?
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so what you're telling us is we're not adhering to what would be the recommended replacement cycle.
That is correct.
And
So
obviously we must be using money in other ways in the budget. Then when did we stop moving from this replacement cycle? Are you just continuing what's been the status quo? Or is this something that has been in the last couple of years because of transportation fund revenues?
there were some rescissions. Yep. A couple of years ago, we had $1 million rescission. And then last year there was an $800,000 rescission. That of course impacts the number of vehicles we're able to replace.
So your base budget then reflects a level with $1 million rescission, or did it bring it back to what it was before the rescission? I mean, it seems to me this is something that has been of concern, I think, to the chair, and that is, the condition of our fleet. And if we're seeing, in fact, we are moving away from what had been a solid replacement schedule. This represents decisions made around T-fund dollars and where they're used in other places. Is it because the federal dollars are requiring more state match and we're using it in that way rather than for fleet maintenance? And so I'm just raising this as
Good
a
point,
question.
good point. We don't want to get behind. We did that with the state police and we finally got caught up. We don't want to get behind. So that's a good question.
And I may let Deputy Director Todd weigh in here, or we'll get back to you, because I wasn't here for those years in which there were rescissions. But I know if we have an increase in salt one year and the districts need the money for the salt, then it makes sense to reduce it from the fleet budget for that particular year.
Yeah, so we had rescissions for a couple of years based on our revenue forecasts. As you recall, early in COVID, we had rescissions in maintenance and fleet because of those decreases in revenues. So yeah, both of the fleet and maintenance took cuts because of that. I think there was almost $8 million out of maintenance, and then the 800,000 out of fleet. So just to balance our budget.
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go right ahead, Senator Pertlick.
Yeah, Harmony, the data on that graph, did you say that was from somewhere else, or is this AOT data?
The next slide will show you an example of our data that we're looking at. So this is one of the trucks I just use as an example, but it'll show you our operating costs. That's our labor, our parts, our vendor costs if we have to pay a vendor to repair it. And it'll kind of just shows you with the depreciation and the fuel and all of the operating expenses where the optimum point is right around year 7, because in year 8 you start seeing those higher repair costs to repair things associated maybe with a powertrain. Now you need a new engine or transmission, or you need a complete overhaul of something. We're seeing our highest costs in year 8.
But is this is for one particular?
This is for one vehicle in particular. But
you do have this data for this.
Yes, we do. Yep, for the whole fleet. We do it by category of vehicle, not necessarily the entire fleet, because it's a variety of different equipment. So when we're looking at it, we're looking at a category, whether it's a medium duty truck or it's the class 8 trucks we're looking at. So it's not always the same. For a light duty vehicle, it may make sense to keep them a little bit longer. but it just depends. So yeah, this one is just showing your operating cost by vehicle. We can look at it by vehicle as well as the entire category. And as you retain these vehicles longer, you know, your budget's therefore impacted because you have higher maintenance and repair costs. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You've got not enough money to replace the vehicle, but you're also spending more money on the maintenance and repair side. That increases your downtime. Now you have to have a few more spares on hand to cover the time when you're doing the major repairs on the fleet that you have.
Chair,
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Senator Ingalls.
do we see any help with the new federal dollars coming to turn that trend around? You know, I also listened to Senator Kitchell about people always looking for money and all of that, and it's just never enough dollars to go around no matter what. But with what we have coming, is there a likelihood that we could replace more vehicles?
I'm not sure that I know the answer to that. Perhaps Todd or Wayne do. I know our equipment budget is set by statute. So the formula is there by statute. So it would require a statutory change to give us more equipment fund replacement money.
Well, the other thing that we're looking at right now, and we can do this anyways, because yeah, the funding's a piece that's in statute, but we determine what we purchase every year. So whether we purchase 30 trucks and an excavator or something else. So we're looking at that. Actually, we have Harmony running a bunch of numbers for us. So we can figure out what is the right pieces of equipment we want. We know we have, we're actually, one of the things we're looking at are graders. You know, graders don't get as much use. We don't have many back roads. Yes, we do some grading for some of these unorganized towns, but they're not significantly used like most towns are. So we're looking at our numbers between excavators and graders to see if we can increase the number of trucks. And there was that 1 year hit on where we bought 17 plow trucks, and now we're back up to, and we'll see this in a little bit, we're back up to a plan to purchase 30, which will get us back up. And again, our fleet management system allows us to see what we're spending for repair and maintenance, what we get for resale and everything. So that's one of the things that, you know, our fleet maintenance group does extremely well, is managing our fleet and making sure we have it. We've had these in the past. We get through them and then pick things back up. So, you know, I don't see this as a big impact to us right now. You know, we'll just make some hard decisions, tougher decisions here in the future.
Well,
I
I
know
guess
I know
go
we
ahead,
talked
Jane.
about the graders in the past because we were going to share them because they're so expensive and not used much. We were going to do more sharing with the graders from town to town or whatever. Yes, Senator Kitchell, I see your hand.
Well, we're talking about money, and I think honestly, part of what we're seeing is less T-fund revenues because we have not made any fee adjustments. And so we asked to look at if we had maintained our current fee updates, what is the impact of, which is essentially tax breaks. We would have over $10 million more flowing into the transportation fund. So you're seeing what happens when your costs are, labor is going up and the equipment's going up, and the revenue to support those higher costs are being held at the lower level and not being adjusted for inflation. So the report just came out. It was not sent to transportation, but most of those fees, we were looking just at major fees and what was the revenue loss associated by not updating them. And transportation is really hard hit. And I will send that out because I think, you know, this is a conscious policy decision, but the impact of not doing these updates on the normal cycle means that the AOT has got over $10 million less revenues from those normal user sources than would have been the case. So we just have to acknowledge, if you don't want to adjust the revenues, then it's going to pop out in the way that we're seeing it. It's a zero-sum game is all I'm saying. And I didn't have the figures until just, I think yesterday or the day before. So I will get them to Jeannie and people can see, because that decision does have a budgetary impact. And I think this is probably, there are other areas where the agency has had to accommodate past, the spending to the available revenues.
I just thought with the extra millions of dollars we're getting, they could juggle some money around different funds.
The problem is that those federal dollars have to be matched. And so that puts even greater strain on your state dollars, because as Chris Roop estimated, it's over 100 million of match that has to be ponied up if you're going to draw down those federal dollars. So it's not like the CRF money that was just 100% federal and no state share.
Senator Ingalls.
And thank you, Senator Kitchell, for that. That's very helpful. I guess in a normal year, and I don't think we really can call this a normal year with the amount of inflation that we're seeing across the country, and with the federal dollars they're coming up, and a long overdue pay raise to the folks that are helping us run these departments. I'm just surprised to see just a 2.5% increase over the budget. And as Senator Mazza said, again, some of these federal dollars coming in, it seemed like we could go, but it's all a piece of a pie. There's only so many places it can go, and it's just helpful to have these discussions.
Senator Mazza?
Yes, go right ahead, Senator Chisholm.
I just want to say I completely agree with Senator Kitchell and what Senator Ingalls was just touching upon. And I would love if we could have some sort of analysis of what our car registration fees and how they stack and compare with other states. I think this problem of less money is going into the T fund is just going to get larger or more dominant in the coming 5 years with the gas tax declining. So I think it would be well worth having a sharp discussion about what we're charging to register any car, any vehicle, electric or otherwise, and how that might be a sort of a stopgap measure to generate some additional fees to pay for these roads that are really expensive.
The one thing that you might have to control for is, like our neighbor, New Hampshire, actually has a personal property tax on cars
Pay a lot of
and
money.
boats.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how it may influence their registration, because they've also got another tax
Right. Pay on the value.
requirement. So if we do that, I think we need to be careful, or we need to understand if there are multiple taxes on that vehicle, not only the registration or fees, whatever you want to call it. But I do know New Hampshire does have a personal property tax.
One of the things I brought up with last year was the fact that, for example, we haven't looked at the campers and motorhomes. They were paying like peanuts compared to what they were, like an automobile, like $72. They were paying about the same, and it was always shocking to think that those size vehicles. But we ought to look at it anyway. We ought to have DMV just give us an overview of what their costs are and fees are.
All right. Well, I can forward this report. It does cover other agencies like Fish and Wildlife and DEC. It was doing just the major fee categories. So, but most of them fall right squarely in DMV, which is the revenue stream for AOT. So I can I'll have that sent to Jeannie, and then she can get it out to the committee.
Okay, go right ahead, Harmony.
Great.
Can I
So
just add
Todd-
something in?
Todd,
Sorry.
go right ahead. Yep.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that, even with these additional budget pressures, with all the increase of federal funds and that match, we've been made whole in between district maintenance and fleet. So, I think right now our plan looks good. We may see some residual in the future on our age of our equipment, but we will definitely adjust based on that in the future. But I think we're happy with what we got. We did get an increase on both sides. We're back up. When you're struggling for money and you get an increase, to me, that says that, we're not like we were a couple of years ago when we had the rescission. So, I think we're very happy with what we got. We will manage through it. If we see increases, then we'll come back and see where we can either increase the statutory amount or go from there. But right now, I think it gets us back on our plan, and that's a great place for us to be.
Yes, actually, Todd, if you want to go to that slide, the next slide is basically the same thing. This is just the cost per mile, the same data that you were just looking at, but broken down into a cost per mile. But if you go to the next slide, Todd, this is our plan, and I think this will show you, give you a better idea of how we intend to recover our equipment replacement. So this is a 3-year projection. It's not set in stone. It's how we plan to spend the funds that were provided. You'll see for FY22, our equipment purchases are at 10 million rather than the 8 that you initially saw. That's because we were able to carry forward some funds that weren't expended last year. During COVID, it was really tough for us to get the equipment orders that we had placed. Some of them had to be canceled and replaced this year. So we carried forward some funds from last fiscal year to this fiscal year, which is allowing us to purchase 27 of the plow truck chassis. Again, our goal is 30, and you'll see in FY 2024, we plan to return to that. The 17 plow and bodies, those are the upfits for the previous year's orders. So I mentioned that we're 2 years ahead on the orders. So we ordered 17 plow truck chassis last year, and they're being delivered this year. So we'll need to upfit them this year. So the 17 correlates to the 17 that we bought in FY 21. And so in FY 23, you'll see we're planning to purchase 7 bodies for the 27 trucks we plan to order this year, and then it goes on from there. I will point out in here in FY22, we've planned to purchase 6 of the electric half-ton trucks. Those are the Ford Lightnings. We've placed that order. We don't have any assurances from Ford that they will be arriving during FY 2022. However, the funds are encumbered. We will place the order. They may not arrive until next fiscal year. We're also looking to purchase 2 electric cargo vans. These would be primarily used for our mechanics to respond to road calls. So they have their tools in them. They are assigned to a region. So their trips are within that electric range, and they'll be able to return back to their central garage location and recharge.
Have you ordered those yet, Harmony?
Not the EV cargo vans. They will probably, we're looking at various models, but it'll probably end up being the Ford Transit. That seems to be the best match for us as far as our needs. They don't, unfortunately, most of them don't come in all-wheel drive. So that's a consideration that we have to make, simply because typically when we're responding to a roadside breakdown, it's a plow truck that's broken down and the weather's bad. But for right now, I think the Ford Transit will meet our needs, at least in some of our areas, to try them out. And so that's the direction we want to go there. And you'll also see one of the larger purchases would be an EV bucket truck or flatbed. So we're looking at an electric flatbed truck that could they could transport the water for bridge washing, that sort of thing, and or a bucket truck. So we know from talking to one of the local utilities that they've recently procured a bucket truck and a stake body truck from a manufacturer in Canada. And the total cost between those two was about $1 million. So we will probably we're budgeting for one or the other. At this point, we don't know which one, if it'll be the bucket truck or the flatbed first. And then you can go down through and kind of see the other pieces of equipment we're looking to purchase. Again, we are not buying graders because we are going to try to reduce our fleet down to 4 graders and dispose of the other. and share those between the various regions.
Harmony,
we're
in the
looking-
last auction we had, did we bring in a lot more money because of scarcity of used vehicles? Did it bring in a lot more than we anticipated, or because I know you can't buy used vehicles, you can't buy used equipment, graders or anything else?
So interestingly, during COVID, we've not been able to have the physical auction. So
Oh,
we've been doing a lot of smaller auctions online.
Uh-huh.
I would have to get that information for you,
Okay.
Senator.
Just curious to see, because I know
Sure.
used vehicles were high, so.
But yeah, so we hope to have a spring auction this year, although, we rely on BGS surplus property to tell us if that's going to happen or not. In the interim, the online auctions seem to be working well. It means we don't have to hang on to them for quite so long, and we can turn them over quicker.
Okay,
That's about it. So yeah, I think like Todd said, we're going to recover just fine from those 2 rescissions.
okay.
As we purchase the electric vehicles, one of the challenges is going to be the upfront cost is higher, and we get the savings on the maintenance and repair side. So
Okay.
we'll see the savings on the operating side eventually,
Right.
but the upfront cost will be more.
And there's not much of an engine in them. Yeah. Okay, any other questions from the committee before we move on? Any other comments from Harmony or Todd or? Thank you, a very good presentation, and
Thank you.
it's always interesting. Thank you very much.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Okay. All right, we'll move right over to our next item. Highway Division budget, Bridge Program budget. Rob White, Kristen Higgins, and Pam Thurber. Who would like to take over?
I'll kick it off, Senator.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. For the record, I'm Rob White. I'm the Project Delivery Bureau Director. Today, we have our first budget presentation. Project Delivery Bureau, which is in the Highway Division of the agency, has 3 major programs that you'll be hearing from, 1 today, and I believe there's 2 tomorrow. We have the Municipal Assistance Program, we have the Highway Safety and Design Program, and today we have the Structures Program with Kristen and Pam. So I'll turn it right over to them and let them get going.
Love that bridge.
Excellent. I know you do.
That's a beauty.
I assume everybody can see my screen and hear my voice.
Yeah. Thank
And
you.
I just want to say it's great to see you all again. I was really hoping that it would be different, that we could be in the same room. I always enjoyed that. But here we are online, and it's good to see it's all the same folks. So I'll just go through a quick breakdown of what we're going to talk about today. We kind of stick to the same format every year, so you could refer back to old presentations and do some comparisons if you'd like. So we're going to talk about the funding splits and how the programs are split up. The distribution, Pam will touch on that and talk about, what types of funds are being applied and where. The structure asset population, because that's always changing, it's dynamic. The asset condition. And then we've added a couple of slides on the project selection process that we're rolling out these next couple of years. Then I'm going to take over and get into the nuts and bolts of the structures program for fiscal year 23, starting with the interstate down to the town highway bridge. I'll talk about our accelerated bridge program. I have some news on that. And then I know the fan favorite is the before and after pictures. So I always show what we put out last year and what it looks like now. So that's always fun. And then I'll just go over some of the risks that we've identified over the past year to, delivering our program and what we're seeing in the industry today. So with that, I'll hand it over to Pam to go through the next few slides.
Good morning. I'll just talk a little bit about their programs. There's 3 major programs that we have: Interstate Bridge, State Highway Bridge, and Town Highway Bridge. These are each funded a little bit differently, with Interstate Bridge being a shared fund, 90% federal and 10% state. State Highway Bridge It funds those large bridges and large culverts on the state highway system, including any those ancillary assets such as retaining walls. And the shared funding on that one is 80% federal and 20% state generally. And then Town Highway Bridge funds all those local bridges on class 1, 2, and 3 town highways. It does not fund anything on class 4 town highways or anything less than 20 feet in span length. And generally, the funding split for that is an 80-10-10. Yeah, you'll see pluses and minuses there because there is some flexibility in how much the state kicks in, depending on if the roadway can be closed and we can get away from having to have a temporary bridge there. And this is just reflection in a pie chart form of what we're proposing for fiscal year 23 into the Interstate Bridge Program. You'll see the majority of that, 90% comes from the federal government, with a remainder between the T fund and the TIB and TIB bonds. State Highway Bridge, same thing here, where it's just majority of it comes from the federal. Again, you'll see a little bit difference where I said before it was 80% federal. This shows about 81 because we do have the opportunity once in a while to increase our federal share on certain projects. And if we can, we'd definitely take advantage of that. So State Highway Bridge is a combination of federal dollars and the T fund.
That doesn't reflect any deferred match. This is just additional federal dollars.
Correct. Yeah. Town Highway Bridge, the funding sources, and this one just a little bit different because you do have that local share. And again, here it reflects 6%. And when I said earlier that the town highway was an 80-10-10 generally, that 10% for the local is at the maximum amount when the bridge is going to be replaced. If a bridge is to be rehabilitated, the local funding, it gets cut in half to 5%. And if the bridge can be replaced or rehabilitated under a closure and accelerated without having to do additional right-of-way or some of those other things for traffic control, we again further cut their half or their share in half. So this is just a population of what we have for the number of bridges in Vermont. You will see that these numbers can bounce up and down a little bit over the years. And we did earlier just catch that the interstate number is off slightly because it does not reflect those border bridges that we share with New Hampshire, which are captured in the state highway numbers, unfortunately. But for the interstate, you'll see there's about 310 to 314 bridges, which is the exact number. State highway, state-owned bridges, 816, and the locals are just over 1,600 bridges for a total of long structures, which means having a span length between faces of abutment of 20 feet, well, actually greater than 20 feet, I'm sorry, it's greater than 20 feet. Those total just shy of 2,800 bridges. And then you'll see the breakdown of good, fair, poor. And when we say good, fair, or poor, that's based on condition. So if a bridge has any component, and a component would be its deck, superstructure, substructure, or culvert, given a poor assessment rated 4 or less, then the bridge itself would be classified as poor. So statewide, we have 67 bridges currently that are in poor condition, and then 1,400 plus that are in good condition. Short structures, those are those between 6 and 20 feet. Interstate, there's 204. State highway systems, just over 1,000 for a total of 1,263. We do not look at state or town-owned short structures. So you'll see those are just asterisks. We don't have those numbers. And again, you'll see the breakdown of good, fair, and poor. Those short structures tend to be the culverts, where there are a few short slab bridges, but they do tend to be the culverts. And this is just that federal definition of good, fair, poor. It's based on a lowest rating, condition rating of the component. So if there's one or more components rated 4 or less, the bridge is poor. If one or more components, the lowest one is 5 or 6, bridge is fair. And if it's greater than or equal to 7, the bridge is classified as good. We used to use the term structurally deficient. There are some people that still use it, and you can kind of associate structurally deficient with poor, but we are trying to get away from that definition and just keep it as good, fair, and poor. But I did include it here so you can see it. So in this thing, we'll just give you that trend back to that structurally deficient, because that's what we had been using. And you'll see in each of the different systems, the interstate, state highway, town highway, both longs and shorts, that over the years from 2010 to today, 2020 data, that we're making substantial strides in reducing the number of poor structures on our systems. So we're doing a great job. The trend is always going down in any one of these categories. Did you have a question, Senator?
No,
No, I was just going,
looking good,
Uh,
looking good.
except the top line, it's in only probably 1 or 2 bridges can probably alter the trend line here.
So
Nationally, Vermont is still under. So
yeah,
relative to the national and other states, we're doing well.
we are doing very well.
Is that what you're trying to tell us by this slide?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay.
You'll see Vermont is the lowest, that blue line.
Oh,
And this
Oh.
is based on deck area. So that's how Federal Highway is now asking us to report some of our numbers. So the percent poor, or again, structurally deficient by deck area. And Vermont is doing really well. We are lowest when it comes to looking at it from a national standpoint, even looking at it from our tri-state partners.
Okay.
So that was a little bit of our inventory. The next thing I want to talk about is, how we are now moving projects into the program. This VPSP2 is now a performance-based, data-driven selection process that we've started. Bridges are just starting into this. We will be asking the regions to identify and look for potentials to add to our program this coming March. We haven't done it yet, but the regions will be getting a list of projects that we feel have good potential for adding to the program. And we're going to ask them to add in some of those that they have. So the 2 paths to come into the program are those asset and safety driven that the agency is very familiar with, and those more regionally driven for modernization and expansion. What we'll be looking for is to develop a transportation value for every one of these bridges that are coming into it. And the transportation value is based on the safety, the asset condition, mobility, the environment, resiliency, everything listed here to determine the best value in a fair and consistent way to get bridges onto the program. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention early on. We have not done this with the regional planning commissions yet. Again, we'll be going to them this March for the first time. But we're really anticipating we're going to have some great results from it. I'll turn it back over to Kristen now.
Thanks, Pam. We're excited about a better way to select projects that, is fair for all the regions. So now let's get into the nuts and bolts of the program for next year. So we're just under 125 million this year with total funding, which is up substantially from last year. Across across the three programs, it funds 107 projects, with 57 of those funded for construction. So as I said, we're up quite a bit, of over 40% increase based on last year's numbers.
Do you think with the shortage of help and it's going to affect a lot of these projects this year? Do you think contractors are going to be able to bid on all these, or?
Well, you jump right to those questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, it's okay. No, I do. I know at the end of the presentation, we
Okay,
in
that's right.
engineering
Go ahead.
put together risk registries. So I have some risks. So the answer is yes, but
Okay.
Don't know exactly. So here's our program funding trends, and you can see that our highest funding level is just about 140 back in 2015. And today's number, we're approaching that. We're at 124. So we're building it back up. At the end of the presentation, I'll show you the projections for the next 5 years of the funding, and it'll be, the highest funding ever. So I'll start right off with the Interstate Bridge Program. So we're funding that this year at $36.7 million. In total, it's 18 projects funded, with 9 of those going to construction. We're still working on one bi-state project with New Hampshire on I-89 down in Lebanon. I don't know if folks travel down that far, but there's been a project going on for a year now, and it's going to continue.
Anybody who goes to Dartmouth Hitchcock uses
Yes.
that bridge.
They do, and I know, and there's going to be some traffic snafus, and I'll get into that in a couple of slides, just so you'll know. But it's going to get a little bit difficult to travel down there in the next years. And then we've got 3 bridge preventative maintenance projects on the books, but we also have some money in a line item for more. So there'll be more coming in for those fixing to get the poor condition bridges up to a fair rating with some maintenance. So we're almost up $14 million this year. So that's a 60% increase from last year. Like I said, the Lebanon Hartford is the big spender and is under construction. And it's going to be that way for another 2 years. We're continuing to focus on our structures on I-91 with 4 bridge deck replacements in Weathersfield and Westminster. Now, it's pretty close to the Rockingham project, so that area is getting some pretty nice attention to keep those bridges functioning. Again, they're really tall, so we'd want to keep the decks and the superstructures as good as we can for as long as we can. We have a deck project on I-89 in Sharon. And last year we did the northbound lane. This year we're going to do the southbound lane. So we'll be in crossover situation there. And then this year we've put out it's in advertising right now, major maintenance and preservation project on I-91 between Fairleigh and St. Johnsbury. And that includes several bridges. We're going to be talking membrane overlay and some structural repairs. Again, just to keep what Pam was saying, keep those structures in fair to good rating so that we can focus on what we have to actually replace. I've been giving summaries on this project since I started giving you all presentations, and here's my last one. Kind of bittersweet, but this project is complete. I know Carolyn and David gave you a presentation on it a couple weeks ago. And here's just the final numbers, about 55 million when it's all said and done. And it was, about a 5-year project, but well worth it. This project will be in our inventory for 100 years.
I guess we won't have to worry about it.
Whoa, isn't that nice? It's kind of weird to think that, but I think it a lot. The Hartford Lemon, I won't read all the slide, I'll just kind of go through it, but if you want to refer to it to see when the traffic snafus are going to happen. I mean, right now, everything is pretty much status quo because they're working on substructures in the median. So every once in a while, there's a lane closure, mostly coming out of New Hampshire. But, and that's the way it's going to stay until, next fall, or this coming fall, actually, 2022, fall 2022. After that, things are going to change because they're going to have to be shifting traffic into the median to try to build the exteriors. So the on-ramps from 91 are gonna get shorter, so they're gonna have to transition traffic earlier. And, you know, then they're gonna have to bring the the incoming traffic in. They're gonna be doing some overnight closures to set steel. So, you know, this is recognizably a high traffic area. And I would not be telling the truth if I was gonna say over the next 2 years, we're just gonna be able to cruise through down here. We're not gonna be able to. So folks should plan their trips accordingly and just be prepared as we get into the portion where we're really putting this bridge together. We're gonna be in some delays, and trust me, I will hear about it and we will be responding. We do have project outreach out down there, getting the word out to try to get in front of it, but you know, we still end up getting phone calls and have to respond to those. Now for the 10G reports on the interstate program. So for new projects, we have a couple of maintenance projects that were brought in. You know, some repairing of a bridge over 91. The second one is we have to do some trough work and repair an expansion joint on a bridge on 91 that has been defective. Winooski just passed the interchange there. We're going to be doing some paving and some plug joints just to keep that in good repair. And then a project was brought in for full-on scoping into my program on I-91. Completed projects, I like these because that means they're done. Last year I talked to you about the 4 bridge decks being worked on down in Berlin at the interchange there. Well, they are all complete and traffic is flowing freely through that area and they look quite nice. The rail's been upgraded. We're meeting all the test levels that the feds require for this type of highway. So we're happy about that. Hartford on 91, that big bridge over the railroad just north of White River. We had painted it several years ago, but the expansion joint has always been problematic. So that's been replaced and the bridge has been membraned and paved. So we're hopeful to get several more years out of that. Middlesex, we did a spray on pipe liner under the interstate to get some more life out of that pipe. It's pretty deep and complicated. And then of course the Rockingham design build is coming off the books this year. This is what I like to talk about least, but it's projects where estimates have risen, but I've got answers on this one. So this Brattleboro IM bridges 4 north and south. It was programmed as a major maintenance project to repair fascia because the fascia concrete was spalling off and could fall on traffic below on Route 5. So we looked at it in structures and did some more analysis on the bridge deck and decided that really this bridge needs a new deck all the way around. So what we did is we broke off into 2 contracts, a contract 1, and we put up some a catch system at the fascia to stop the concrete from falling off. And now we're moving forward with bridge deck replacement on these 2 structures. So obviously the estimate went up quite a bit because it's a lot more work. And then the second project is Springfield, and this project it has expanded because we've increased the number of structures we're going to capture in the repair. So it started out for only bridge 28 north and south, but then we started looking at maintenance of traffic and other bridge conditions and decided that, you know, while we're moving traffic to the other barrel, it would be in our best benefit to address another bridge that was deficient. So we added 2 more bridges, and now we're doing it again because there's another bridge that's not great and it's in close proximity to that. So we're now going to be adding another bridge. So this is going to be a really great bundle to be bundled for a contractor. And, you know, the benefit of bundling is that, you know, once you get the contractor, they're on the hook to replace or repair all these bridges. Now, these aren't going to be all replaced. Some of them's deck, one's a replacement, one's a superstructure repair. So, but that's why the cost went up significantly, is because we're adding work to the original project. So let's go to the State Highway Bridge Program. We're just under 58 million here. This year, we're funding 57 projects total. 32 of those are programmed for construction, with 6 of those being large culverts. You know, I continue to talk about the large culverts because that's an asset in our inventory that's compromised and we need to pay attention to it. Federal Highway has written that as a risk in their eyes to our program, so we're focusing a lot of our effort on large culverts. So 6 will be in construction this year. Then we have 16 more being developed. And, you know, we met yesterday to talk about bringing in more culverts in the future to get them on the books too. So we have plenty of culvert work, and we're continually talking about creative ways to contract those so we can get the best bang for our buck. We have 4 bridge preservation and maintenance, which leverage federal funds now. So that's good news. So those go out at an 80-20 split. And then we have 3 projects with our neighbors. So we're up $8.5 million this year, 17%. North Hero Grand Isle continues to draw at a pretty hefty price tag, but even that one's starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
When is the end of the tunnel?
I'll show you in the next slide. I don't, it's like 2023.
It sounds like a giant sucking sound up toward the islands.
They had to build a bridge, then tear it down, a temporary drawbridge. That's the cost of money.
Yeah, I know.
There is a giant sucking sound up there in a lot of ways, but
Thanks,
I
Senator.
have a whole slide on that because I know it's Senator Maz's one of his favorites.
Thanks, Senator Mitchell. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we'd like to focus on it.
Isn't it time for you to have a coffee?
This is why I miss being in the room, by the way.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Okay, so yeah, North Hero. So so this year we put out a couple of bridge decks in Montgomery, and you know I've been holding them back the last few years because we've always been constrained. So this year they're going out. We're going to replace a bridge deck in Chester on 103. There's a slew of bridges in Calais that we held back the whole group a couple of years back when we were constrained. Last year we put the project out, but we put a hold point on one bridge so they couldn't spend too much money last year. And this year the other 2 bridges are going to be built. We're going to replace a bridge on Route 12 in Braintree. We're under a 21-day closure. We're going to replace a culvert in Addison with a 7-day closure. We're replacing another culvert in Chester. Like I said, there's just a lot of culverts in our inventory that we're addressing. And you'll see in pictures that these are becoming bridges and very large structures. Well, we're going to be back in North Hero on Mother's Bridge with a deck project. That's going to see some traffic impacts because we're going to have to go to 1 lane. It's a really big project and it's pretty complicated, but we've got a pretty good plan. So that's going to go out. We're replacing a culvert that's been on the books for a few years and been delayed because of funding on Route 9 in Searsburg. That had to become a bridge because of wildlife passage. And then we're going to replace a superstructure on US 103 in Ludlow under a 21-day closure. And I'm going to talk more about a couple of these bridges in the summary. I didn't mention Queechee Gorge on that list, but that is being funded this year. It's going to be advertised in the late summer.
Nice
So,
fence.
yeah, on the left is what it looks like now. You all remember we put the safety fence up about 5 years ago. I haven't had an incident since, so that was good. That made good sense. And I think people, you know, before COVID anyway, came here and still spent their money. So I think this was a win-win. The project's estimate is about 12.4 million. And what you see on the right is a rendering of what the new safety fence would look like. And that has been vetted and presented in a public forum for 3 years. So we've reached agreement on it. One of the issues with this project is our construction window is really short because of foliage. You know, the one constraint we had was that we had to have, you know, the contractor out of the way before foliage hit. So that takes, you know, 6 weeks out of a construction season. But we're working with that, and you know, we're determining that it's going to take 3 full seasons because we also have to paint the steel underneath. And I don't know if you all remember what that looks like, but it's an arch, and it's really going to be tricky with scaffolding and getting in there and painting and making the repairs. We're actually widening the bridge a little bit because currently, if you look on the left, that sidewalk is really narrow. I mean, people have fallen over the safety fence, you know, when they're all packed in there. It's not ideal. So if you look at the picture on the right, you know, there's no more safety fence against the traffic. It's a full-on federally compliant bridge rail that would stop traffic. So in the end, this is going to be a great improvement to this bridge, excuse me, but it's going to have some pain points. So here's just a summary on the North Hero project because it's, you know, now the biggest project in the state highway program. It's still predicting 85 million. The new bridge.
Is this the most costly bridge because of the nature of it, of any that?
Drawbridge.
Right, I know. So I'm just wondering, you know, the 85 million, or was the, you know, the big bridge project down in Brattleboro actually more costly?
No, that was like 60. No, this is up there, but I think Middlebury wins.
Oh, yeah, I would,
Right,
yeah,
you're going to
and-
see that in a couple slides, but Middlebury's the big winner on that one. So
Okay.
Senator
Middlebury's not in Senator Mazza's district. Oh, it is. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
It's okay. They're, you know, they're
That
beautiful
didn't have to
structures.
be built. That 85 million could have done a lot of repairs elsewhere, but it's the only route and it's the only drawbridge in Vermont has to be replaced. Oh, God.
It is. We're all gonna be okay for it. So the new bridge piers are nearly complete. You can see them in this picture on the right, and they're, you know, they're massive for this because the bridge kind of has to open inside of it. They're going to begin building the bascule span, which is the span that opens this winter. And once they start that, we got to beat the clock to May 15th because, you know, they're going to build it in the down position, and they got to open that thing for May 15th for when the first boat wants to come through. So, you know, I'll be sweating.
We're doing it for you, Ingalls, because you have a big boat. You can't get through there unless they raise the bridge. So that's why I did it for you.
Well, we're actually, if you get there, we're starting the canal project here next year. So I'll just be ready for that one.
Okay.
Well, maybe it'll snow that day and there'll be no boaters.
On that bridge, how close is that bottom of that bridge to the water? Do you know?
I don't know, but I can let you know. Oh, which one? This one?
Yeah, on the drawbridge.
Yeah, I don't have that in my head, but
Okay, it's not a big deal. I was
take
just
notes, I'll send
curious.
it.
But it just doesn't, the nature of that bridge, it doesn't have to open for any, for all boats, just boats out of certain heights.
Right. Yeah, I think that, you know, the small motorboats can get under it. I'll get you the number. I mean, all I have to do is ask somebody for it.
Okay.
So I'll have it included in the summary so you know.
Ingalls wants to make sure his boat goes through it.
Absolutely.
Well, they're gonna have to open it for yours, I hear.
That's
So,
right.
I hope so. I hope it's ready by May 15th.
I know. Well, we get fined if it's not, so we all hope it's ready. So the abutments will be worked on this winter, along with some miscellaneous electrical work. They're going to set the steel for the approach spans because there's spans leading up to the drawbridge. And per the contract, traffic is supposed to be switched to the new bridge in July of 22. So that's coming up. And then our final completion date is July 2023, because as Senator Mazza pointed out, we've got a temporary drawbridge in place right now. So we have to take that out, and that's going to take some time and restore the area. Here's just some pictures that I grabbed of the site right now. This is the most current pictures, and you can see the big giant piers. I don't know if you can see my cursor right there. And then in the bottom pictures is more of a close-up. It almost looks like a jail courtyard when you look at the people in the rebar cages. But last year I showed you the pictures of the giant footings with the men down working in them. You know, they look very small. So this is really a big deal to put these piers in. Middlebury Tunnel update. So last year I told you I was gonna see if you could guess which was the rendered picture and which was the actual photo, but I gave you the answer in the presentation. So the picture on the left is the rendering that we've been showing the public for the last 6 years of what the project will look like. And the picture on the right is the actual project from the same viewpoint from a drone this fall.
Kristen,
Yes.
Senator Mazza,
Yes, go right ahead. Sorry.
do we have a photo like that from, well, we've seen this photo a lot, but I wondered, I don't remember ever seeing this vantage point like from a drone before construction. Like trying to remember what it looked like prior.
I
Maybe
don't, I
taken
mean, I can look for
before photo?
one, but I've been having a hard time getting pictures of before that aren't bridge inspection pictures.
I was down here for that project this fall, and it's unbelievable to what they did to go through underneath. It looks like it's never been done. It's beautiful. The greens up top. It is something to see. I'll tell you, the work that went into that design, and it's just unbelievable to have that happen and not even affect. It's just beautiful. A lot of thought went into that one.
Well, if you come across any before photos.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you know, we had a camera up. I'll ask Aaron because someone had to take a before picture to superimpose this,
Yeah.
all this work in here. So I'll, if Pam, you could take a note to remind me to reach out to the consultant. I'll see what I can get. But you can tell the drone photo because there was a man lift right on the tracks. So that's.
Well, you can also see that there are more cars in the parking lot on the
Yes.
right and the back by the
Yeah.
river.
Right. Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
So
Probably taken on a Sunday.
the pavers on the left, you know, how they have the red across the road. Middlebury elected not to do that. A lot of towns like the imprint of bricks and then they paint it. Ends up being kind of a maintenance headache if you have a lot of traffic because the paint wears off. So they eliminated that. So that's different too. But you know how Lazarus Park looks down here is very similar to what it's supposed to look like. And then of course the Triangle Park. Also in this slide, I just want to talk, I mean, over the course of the 5 years that we were working on this project, we programmed more projects to support, you know, the construction of the main project. So this is just a list of all of them. And so, you know, with the contractor that we had procured to work with us, we put out early work packages to install temporary bridges when the bridges ended up failing, to start the large shaft and tunnel work. And then we had to program some more projects to deal with the rail lines that were going to be used as a detour because there was some deficiencies along that line that, you know, we had to take care of. So this is just a list of those projects. And I have cost breakdowns in the next slide. So just when you go back and look at how much effort this was. I really like this picture. It's before and after of Triangle Park. You know, the fountain was a big deal. And as you can see in the before picture, it wasn't even functional. And today it's, look at the little kids playing in the fountain. And, you know, that's a real picture. They're enjoying that on a hot summer day. And it does really look beautiful down there. At the bottom of this slide are the breakdowns, in which points to Middlebury as the winner for the big spender. So all in all, engineering clocked out at $9.4 million. That's 9 for the main project, and then just under 500,000 for the support projects. You know, the rail line supports, coming up with those upgrades. Right away was a big spender, and most of that $12 million was miscellaneous rail upgrades. You know, they needed additional train cars, additional engines to pull the gas cars over the Green Mountain line, which is, you know, comes right over the spine of the Green Mountains. We had to upgrade a loading facility so they could load cars individually for the detour. So all in all, construction was $72.3 million. And then the rest was in the administrative costs and design. So to be honest, We'll have to come back when North Hero Grand Isle is done, and I will total all the costs associated. So, you know, maybe it'll be a contest.
I hope I lose.
Here's some more before and after pictures of the Middlebury area. You can see that big ugly fence by the church. Now it's a beautiful park. You know, look at the failing embankment behind the houses down by Patel Block. Now it's a nice retaining wall that holds things in. This is just another picture of the Lazarus Park. This is where we did the big drilling for the main shaft down in this area. So this was really a mess for a year. And you can see the steep stairs. And what we did is we made an ADA compliant ramp to this little area, the Lazarus Park, and a stairway. So, you know, great improvements for the town. Right, back to the boring stuff. 10G reports new projects. We've brought in a lot of new projects into the program since I talked to you last. Most of these are standard. We can go through them. We've got truss bridges in Berlin, and these are just brought in. Actually, Pam's group, we meet, we bring in projects, and then they get programmed for scoping. We scope them and determine what the treatment's going to be. Couple of trusses. You can see several culverts. Lunenburg's a culvert, a laid up stone culvert. So that's going to get some historic preservation eyes on that. We have, Royalton. Royalton's a new project. I don't know if you're all aware that the rail bridge down in Royalton got hit. Like, I think you probably know because it hit the news pretty hard. Just a couple days before the Amtrak was going to do its first voyage in a year. So that weekend, somebody hit the bridge and ran. So everybody was concerned that it wasn't safe. And so people went out there. I think VRS helped out and provided a beam that they could use to better support the bridge, and the Amtrak came through as planned, albeit at a much reduced speed because it, you know, it couldn't come through as fast. So, and I offered the bridge because it's a rail bridge, but you know, there's a clearance issue. The roadway has to be lowered. The bridge has to be raised. So we made the decision that it would be managed through my program. I've got a great project manager working on it now, and we're looking to fast track a project for next November that would address the rail clearance there. But I can warn you that with working on the roadway alignment for Vermont 14, we're getting some feedback from locals that actually like the fact that you have to practically come to a complete stop and yield at that underpass. They called it traffic calming. So we'll have our work cut out for us in the public process, but that is a new project that was brought in this year. Beyond that, the only one, if you have any questions on this, you can ask me, but the Richford, you remember back when the Halloween storm hit, there was a bridge in Richford that went out. And we broke that into 2 contracts so that we could move the temporary bridge that was installed immediately after the event to an adjacent location so we could get some subsurface information for building the new bridge. So that contract is the contract for the new bridge is coming out this year.
Kristen,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is bridges in your area of responsibility, and I know it doesn't make the list, and that's the bridge in Bradford over the Waits River. And I guess it's structurally sound, but I mean, the cement is off the point. So you have the, you know, the metal rods exposed, and it really looks, if anybody looked at it, they would question how, you know, how sturdy it is. Is that on any list at this point, or is that still viewed as not sufficiently deficient to make it?
I see Pam popping on. I know it's on a list, but I'll let Pam talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely on a list being considered for a project. As far as the safety goes and how it's rated, because the deterioration is really more of the concrete railing system, I'll say, that does not get entered into the actual component condition ratings. So that's why you see that it sometimes appears to be still structurally okay, because the railing isn't part of the deck. It's really not part of the superstructure. So when we rate it from a standpoint of whether it's in a good, fair, or poor condition, that railing doesn't enter into the picture. But we all know that there's something going on here. It needs to be addressed. So we've added it to consideration.
If it just raises the question, what about the rest of it? Because it's on Route 5.
Definitely the rest of it, I mean, is part of our inspection program, and the deck and its superstructure itself are still safe for the traveling public. But the
I would assume
alignment and the
that to be
railing
the
are,
case.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's on a project list. Does that
It
mean
is.
it's been prioritized, or you remember years ago, it's on the list? Remember that, Senator Mazza?
Yep, list. Yep.
So could you just bring us up to date on what being on the list means? It used to be that, we'd put everything on everybody's wish list, and of course, never years would go by and nothing happened because there wasn't the money. So what does it mean to be on the list now?
So to be on the list, it means that we are aware that from a condition standpoint, something needs to be done. And this will go to the regions for their feedback. And I'm sure, again, that they'll say yes, that they want it, and a transportation value we put on it. Once we have transportation values, the higher transportation values will likely get programmed and funded for work. And that process is underway as we speak, kind of.
Okay, so we'll be talking about possibly what, FY 24, 25? That's what I'm just wondering in terms of timing.
I think it'll be two-phased, where we might have to go out with more of a maintenance project to address some of the needs before the actual major construction project. I can't tell you exactly when it will happen because it's based on resources. But we'll definitely have a better idea on that, I'll say probably in the April-May timeframe.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, just to follow up, I mean, it'll come into my program and then it will be scoped and then designed. And then we have to go through all of the hoops for permitting, historic preservation. Is this the one right by the waterfall?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be a tricky to get through the process. So I wouldn't tell you today that would be a quick turnaround in design. But we've done a lot better in getting projects out. So when it comes in, we could say 3 years if things go well. Usually right of way causes delays. If we don't have that saves us a lot of time too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, there's a park right there, and otherwise there's an old mill building, and okay. I have one question for you, Kristen. When you were in third grade, did you aspire to be a bridge engineer?
Yes.
She does a good job at it.
I can say that I preferred playing with trucks more than dolls.
I would be with you there.
I know. I never, my sister liked the dolls. I liked the trucks, but. All right, so back to these reports. 10G completed projects. I don't mind this one because these are the ones that are complete. So you can see we did quite a bit of work last year on the state system. Like I said, we sent out the 3 catalyst projects, but said you can only complete 1 this year. So we could save some money because we didn't have the full blown cost budgeted last year for it. So they finished that one. And I've gotten some emails from people that say they love it. So that's always good. Chester, we replaced a culvert. Essex, right by the circumferential highway there. I don't know if y'all live up there, but there was some settlement in the median, and they had put some slabs over to stop the settlement. So we came through and we replaced that structure. So that was a good project. Lancaster Guildhall, I'll show you a picture of that later. That was a project with our neighbors, came out beautiful. Plymouth,
Oh, is that the Janice Peasley Bridge?
I think it is. I don't know if it's that, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
You want to find out?
No, it's okay. I
I
think
think the Roger Williams Bridge or the Rogers. It's got some goofy name.
Oh,
Not Janet.
How much more we got? Because I gotta be leaving for another meeting, so,
Oh no, all right, we got a lot. So Plymouth, I'll talk to you about that. So you can see, the Bennington Pier that we had to strengthen because of the mishap back in construction there when it was being built. We finished that up. The expanded costs here are really just, increase in maintenance. Like I said last year, once you start pulling pavement off the deck, there's usually a lot more uncovered. So some of those costs of these projects went up. Springfield, on the other hand, was programmed as a liner, and the Agency of Natural Resources was not for that project. So it's been brought into my program, and now the estimate has grown for a possible replacement. Town Highway Bridge Program, we're up to $30 million, quite a bit more than last year, almost double. Brattleboro Hinsdale's the big spender. We've got 32 projects being funded, with 16 funded for construction. You can see we're focusing on some town projects, one in Addison, Huntington, Leicester, Ludlow Village is another one that's getting in this program. That New Fane Arch is going to be, they're closing the road this year. We're going to build that arch. There's a deck project in Montpelier, between Montpelier and Berlin, that's starting this year. Another one in Westminster, and then the Pulteney project. The House will be more interested in this one, is scheduled to be in construction. That's been closed for a while. Just an overview of the Brattleboro Hinsdale, just because that's the big spender in this program right now, and you can see the new alignment. It's quite a feat. The 10G reports all fit on one page here. So new project, we pulled in a Pulteney project on Vermont 31 that was closed last year because of deficiencies in a trust member. So we've brought that into the program for a full-on scope. Looks like it might be a trust rehabilitation. We completed several last year. I'll show you pictures as we get to the pictures. And then we didn't have any expanded estimates this year. Accelerated Bridge Program, we're up over 100 projects now. We're up over 200 million. We did get a blunder this year. We got a mark on our report card, and I'll talk to you about that down in Plymouth. It was a major delay in the opening, and I got a lot of feedback from the public and had to make a special trip to a meeting and apologize on behalf of the state of Vermont for the inconvenience that we caused to those folks. This is the ABC map. I show this every year, but you can see it just gets more stars every year, which is great. The red ones are the ones coming this year. This is just a list of road closures. You can read, this will be in your packet. So if you're interested in what's going on in your region, this tells you if we have any road closures in your region and what the durations will be. And you can see, it fluctuates. Some years have more road closures than others. So just getting back to the Plymouth fiasco, the contractor really struggled with this project and ended up with liquidated damages at the end because it ended up being closed almost 3 times as long as we had stated to the public. It was open just before Thanksgiving, thankfully, and just in time for the World Cup at Killington. But I assured the folks that this was not an overly complicated structure to build, and there were some issues at the contractor, and the contractor did claim that his workforce was tough to get a workforce and had some reasons for it, but in the end, $218,000 in liquidated damages. So here's a picture of before and after. You can see, the toughest structure is the top one that required some concrete work. And then the bottom picture is the other culvert. There was two, and you can see it's just pretty simple. It was just another culvert replaced. And if you want any more information on this, I'm sure you're might not be in the district that's getting asked about these, but I'm happy to give you more. So here's just some of the before and after of some of the projects. You know, Burke was closed for several years, and now it's open, so they're happy about that. This is the Callis project. You can see a new bridge in place, rides a lot better. The thing about Chester is you see, you know, look at the size of the structure that was put in versus what was taken out. So these structures, you know, because of what's happening with the climate, you know, whether you believe it or not, we're passing more water through the structures. I received a complaint on the bridge in Newberry from a elderly gentleman that lived down there talking about how terrible the railing was. And so we put this project, expedited its delivery, and you can see on the right that it's in a much better structure today. Of course, there's the Rockingham before and after, and this is the Lancaster Guildhall Bridge. You can see someone took a drone picture, but it was a truss, double truss, and today it's a modern bridge. Enosburg was another. We had two Enosburgs, one on the state system. The top is on the state route, and you can just see again how much we've opened up the waterway. So we're going to be able to pass a lot of more water under these structures in the years to come. Enosburg was a closed bridge. It closed suddenly because of abutments, and the town asked if we could make it a little bit wider, and so we expedited the delivery of this one, made it wider, which was a problem because, you know, we had to go out beyond the ledge outcrop, but it all worked out. So now they have a wider bridge to better accommodate their farm equipment. I'm almost to the end here. So here's that same slide from before showing what the program's going to be out for the next, you know, 5 years. And you can see we're topping out at 150 million. So over the next 5 years, we'll be at our highest numbers ever. And here's my last slide. It's our risk to delivery. And you can see, you know, the supply chain, you know, currently there's a nationwide driver shortage. We were informed this summer that contractors were struggling with some trucking. Fabrication, we're starting to see some problems with that now. Fabricators who build our girders are telling me that they're booked into the first quarter of next year already. We reached out to them directly to talk about their shortcomings, and they're basically saying that they are no longer able to staff a second shift to build work beyond a normal day. So they're not doing that. So this is a real risk. So how are we mitigating it? We're going to start to look at different types of superstructures, do more concrete superstructures, more concrete girders, and try to mix it up that way. Contractors have been complaining about shortage in laborers. We all saw on TV when SD Ireland did that nice story about what their workforce looks like now. Well, all the contractors, I have a contractor that I loved working with down in the South, and he's no longer, I don't see him bidding anything. I called him and asked him, he said, I don't have people.
Sure, Mazza.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think we're just about out of time, and I hope we're going to come back and continue to finish this off, because I do have one question about the Reedsboro Bridge and the budget for this year. You've got $5 million for construction and just $1 single for preliminary engineering, and I don't see a single dollar anywhere else. So I'd love to know what that's about. Probably an accounting.
I'll tell you what it's about, because I put this when we're developing the budget, I move money around in that tool, and it would not allow me to zero it. Okay, so I'm a person that brute forces everything, find a way to do it. And so the way I even tried to make it less than $1, but it would only take $1. So I said, all right, $1 it is, I got to get this budget set. So there should be no PE spending, but I needed to get the budget set.
Okay, it's 12 o'clock and I've got a meeting. So anything else?
I mean, you all can reach out to me. My email's right here. I'm happy to answer anything.
You did a great job. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
I guess I'm stopping live stream.
Yep.